Hello, everyone, and it is Sarah Maslowski with Moving to Georgia here on my YouTube channel. Welcoming you back for another week to discuss everything that has happened in Georgia real estate. This week, we go live every single Wednesday and have videos that go up on the channel every single Sunday at 6 o'clock. So, thank you so much for joining us and watching. Today, we are going to be talking about should you wait for mortgage interest rates to drop? That is the question. And I talk that through with every single one of my clients that I am currently helping and that reach out because I get it. It is a very, very hot topic of conversation and you can't avoid it. It's everywhere in the news talking about what mortgage rates are doing and heck, what the housing market is doing. So that is something that we are going to talk about right here on the channel during this hour that we're going to spend together. And of course, I would love to know where you are watching from. Last time I asked this question, we had a ton of people watching from New York. So I'm curious to see if we have New York showing up in the house again today. I always seemingly talk about the weather here, and I have to tell you that the weather, like summer came this week in Georgia. Speaking of New Yorkers, I have some New York clients visiting right now, and we were house hunting this week, and they actually got here on, gosh, what's today? Today is Wednesday because we're on live right now. So they got here last week, and we had a ton of rain. Let me tell you, like it rained like 3 or 4 days straight, and it was unusually cool weather too. Yeah, like very cool. And then it was like all of a sudden the rain stopped and summer came and it has not shown us any little bit of relief right now. So the hot, humid weather has shown up here in Georgia. So if you have a trip planned to come visit and explore Georgia this summer, now is the perfect time to do that because it really lets you feel kind of like the humidity that you're going to feel here. And that is a question that we get quite a bit from clients that we talk to that are thinking about making a move. We've got Kanisha joining us from Lancaster, California. I'll have to look that one up on a map. I have no clue where that is, but I do know that's all the way across the country. So thank you for joining us. And Wanda is also joining us from Florida. Thank you for jumping on and watching with us tonight. And of course, I am going to be answering your questions all throughout this live stream about the market, buying a house, selling a house, what it's like to move to Georgia. So if you have any of those questions, go ahead and put those in the comments. And of course, we will answer those all throughout the live stream here. We've got Carl joining us from New Jersey. That's New York adjacent. So you're close to being in New York, but I don't know, is that an insult for New Jersey people to say that you're close to New York? Or is there a rivalry there between New York and New Jersey? I imagine there is, because here in Georgia, there's a huge rivalry between Georgia and Florida. Of course, we Georgians think we're better than people from Florida, and that our weather is better and everything is more superior here in Georgia than it is in Florida. So you'll have to tell me if that's how it is in New York and New Jersey as well. So again, thank you for watching. And today we are going to be talking about, should you wait for mortgage rates to come down? And like I said, at the top of the hour, this is something that I talk about with every single one of my clients. And so I'm going to share with you an article that was recently published by CBS News. We're going to go through that and talk about it. And I'll also kind of give you my opinion and what I'm seeing right here locally here in our market. And so as I say this, one thing you have to know is that real estate is local. The information that we get and that you see in headlines, they're talking mostly about national news. And so they're making broad generalizations. And if you're thinking about moving someplace, really make sure that you're getting that local data and that local information so that you know exactly does that apply to where you're thinking about making a move, because you don't want to make assumptions and judgments based on data that's not even true for your area. Okay, so here's the headline. Should you wait for mortgage interest rates to drop? Here is what the experts think. So let's dive into this. Obviously, it says here the current interest rates aren't as enticing as they were 2 years ago. I really wanted to say no shit, but I did just say no shit. Yes, we know they're not like they were the past 2 years, but that doesn't mean that you should wait. And it says there's some compelling reasons to pursue a house now, even with current elevated mortgage interest rates. So we are going to dive into what the mortgage interest rates are right now. Y'all, they are hovering around 7%. So if you are in the market today, and you were going to make a loan application without any discount points, you are looking at an interest rate of about 7%. And we've been kind of in between the 6-7% interest rate fluctuation, kind of since October of last year. And the impact that it's having for you as a borrower is it's decreasing your buying power. So obviously, the amount of house that you can afford and keep your payment the same is a lot less than what it was when interest rates were a lot lower. This goes down to say that a buyer with an annual income of $75,000, they put down a $40,000 payment. They could afford a $310,000 house with a 6.5% interest rate. And if you compare that to the 3.5% interest rate that we had during the unicorn years, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more here in a second, you could afford almost an $80,000 more house and keep that payment the same. So we know that interest rates have been in fluctuation, and this article states that we're forecasted to see somewhat of a recession by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And even if that happens, it says we're unlikely to see rates go down more than 1 to 2% from their current values. So here's where it gets into the details of why you may want to buy now despite the higher rates. And it says the reality is that as housing prices increase, waiting for rates to drop might not yield the financial advantage buyers hope for. They could be trading dollars in the long run. And that's a good way of putting it, trading dollars. And what they mean there is that you may be paying a little bit of a higher interest rate now, but as interest rate comes down, so do a lot of buyers come out in the market, and that's going to push pressure on the prices upward. And so even though you might be saving on the interest rate, if you're paying more for the house, you're just kind of trading those dollars. You're not really gaining anything at all. It says buyers should focus on their need for housing and the availability of homes in their desired location. If they find a house that suits their needs, they should not hesitate due to high interest rates. Okay. Easier said than done, right? We want to make sure that we can still afford the house. And if you can afford the house at today's current interest rate, I totally agree with this sentiment in this statement. You want to focus on the location and the house. And if you can find that and you can afford it now, buy the house. And we're going to go into this a little bit more. They refer to this popular saying of marry the house, date the rate, meaning that the house that you're choosing, that is like a forever thing or however long you want it to be thing. The rate, the interest rate that you have doesn't have to be forever. When and if interest rates come down, you have the ability to refinance and capture that lower interest rate in the future and have that lower monthly payment. You can't go back and change your house without really selling your house and moving into a different one. It goes on to say, yes, that you can refinance if rates fall enough and if you plan on staying in the home long enough to recoup the costs. And this is a very important caveat here. You want to make sure that you are going to stay in the house long enough so that it does pay off. And there's a cost benefit analysis that a lender can do for you to say, hey, you would have to stay in the house for 3 years to realize the benefit or the savings that you would get from doing the refinance. If you're someone and you're telling me like, hey, we're only moving here to the area for 2 years and then we're moving out of here because we know that the job's going to take us someplace else or we know that life event's going to take us someplace else, then might not be quite a smart thing to count on that interest rate drop in refinancing. Okay, and interestingly, it gives you a scenario here of why you may want to wait for mortgage rates to drop. It says, what if the current interest rates have reduced your buying power to the point where you can't get a home that meets your needs and wants? Then you might want to wait. And I'm going to take a little bit of issue here with the wants, and we'll come back to that. It says you may also want to wait if you're planning to buy in certain markets. It says some markets might see some home prices falling. Places that were hotbeds for investors or people buying a second home are more likely to see home price corrections, particularly in Florida. Here's Florida making an appearance. And I do agree with this. There are definitely some areas in the country where we're seeing significant price drops out on the West Coast in California, and we're also seeing this in Texas. But I will tell you that here in the metro Atlanta area, we're not seeing that at all. And it says here, the bottom line, it says, no matter what you decide, a good place to start is to understand your options, do your homework, understand your financial situation, and get pre-approved for a loan. I can't stress to you enough of how important it is to get pre-approved for a loan. And that lender, I have fantastic ones to connect you with, but that lender is going to break down exactly what your monthly payment would be at a certain level so that you know as you're house shopping, hey, I know exactly where my payment is going to be for this type of house price. And we want you to feel comfortable with that. There's nothing worse than going out shopping for a house, falling in love with something at a price point, and then realizing, oh crap, I can't afford that. And now I have to go look at a lower price point. And y'all, those houses at the lower price point are likely not going to look as good as that house that you fell in love with. So that's why we really want to make sure that you feel comfortable about the financial situation that you have. And there's no better time to do that than early in the process of talking with a lender. So that article said, if you can't find a house that fits your needs and your wants, okay, I took issue with that want. And here's what I mean by that. The market has changed so drastically, at least here in the metro Atlanta area, that you likely, depending upon your price point, may not be able to get everything that you want. And the cost of waiting on the sidelines of renting and not getting into the real estate market could be catastrophic. And what I mean by that is you may never be able to afford what you want because of how quickly home prices are rising and because of how little homes there are for sale. So the time that you spend waiting, you're wasting all of that money on rent, and what you want may not ever become affordable. But what you can do is getting to a home that you can afford that fits your needs. It gives you the space and the housing and the location that you need. Build that equity, turn around and sell that house in a couple of years, use the equity that you gained, and then you'll have even more of a greater capital investment that you can put into your next house that will have more of those wants that you have. I have a great friend who is an agent in Chicago. His name is Brandon Blankenship. He also has a YouTube channel, and he kind of coined the term granny special. And what he means by that is go find that house that grandma owned and grandma hasn't updated since the 60s or the 70s, and put in some cosmetic work to that house and gain that huge equity that you can get by doing that type of fixer-upper, just cosmetic fixer-upper that you can do. And you can gain really great equity in those types of homes. So if you're a first-time home buyer or you're struggling to really find exactly what you want, I would strongly encourage you, find a way to get into the market where you can, how you can, and that is really going to set you up for financial success down the road. Carl says that you love your NYC neighbors. Well, that is very neighborly of you and very Southern charm of you. Yes. So I'm glad that y'all love your New York neighbors and there's no rivalry there. Kanisha says, I'm looking at new build in Georgia, South Fulton County, and it seems like prices are going up every single week. Yes, that is very true, Kanisha. And one thing that you need to know, especially when it comes to new construction, is that builders are going to increase their prices every 3 to 5 houses that they sell. So if they sell 5 houses in a week, next week, those home prices are going to go up. If they sell 5 houses in over a weekend, home prices are going to go up. And they build it that way on purpose, right? The builder's best interest is to make as much money as possible. And so this is why, and this really frustrates me, even though I understand why they do it. But if you're driving around, and I know you've seen this, Kanisha, if you're driving around and you see a sign for a new construction neighborhood and it says home starting in the low 300s, and you're like, U-turn, let me go check out that neighborhood. That's the price point that I'm looking in. And then you walk into that model home and you talk to the agent and they're like, yeah, homes are at 450. And you're like, what? I just saw a sign that said low 300s. Well, the neighborhood, when it started, a year and a half ago, those homes were in the low 300s. And because they've sold so many and built so many, now that's where the prices are. So it's always good if you can get into a neighborhood earlier. And yet, if you are looking at new construction, time is not on your side. So the sooner that you can find something that works for you and get it under contract, the better. And Kanisha, if we're not already working together, I don't think we've ever talked, but I would love to connect with you. My contact information is below this video, and I definitely help a ton of clients just like yourself find new construction opportunities and represent you on a new construction build. And I would love that opportunity. Yeah, she says that only 6 homes when you started looking a few weeks ago, and now there are 11 homes up. Yep. So that definitely tracks with how they are increasing those prices. I will say that this brings up a good point that new construction homes offer a little bit of sometimes some good incentives right now. So even though the home prices are going up, we are still seeing new construction builders offering incentives to buyers to help them with closing costs. And one thing that that mortgage article did not talk about is there is a huge opportunity right now to negotiate seller pay closing costs and use those closing costs to do an interest rate buy down. Not a lot of people know what a buy down is, but it is permanently buying down the interest rate of your mortgage. Now, there is a cost associated with that, and sometimes it can be quite expensive. But if you negotiate to have the seller cover those costs, it makes a significant impact in your monthly payment. And let's be honest, what you care about as a buyer is how much money you have to spend every single month on your monthly payment, not necessarily how much you paid for the house. So I will give you a great example. I recently helped a client. We closed on their house a couple of weeks ago, and they were looking at a $500,000 house. We knew that this home had been on the market for a little bit, and we had negotiating room with the seller. So we went back to the lender and we said, hey, we think we can negotiate about $15,000 here. Which is better? Should we negotiate reducing the price to $485,000, or should we negotiate paying $500,000 for the house, but negotiate $15,000 in seller pay closing cost and use that $15,000 seller pay closing cost to buy down the rate? Y'all, when we ran the numbers, buying down the rate and paying $500 for the house saved them $260 every single month compared to what the payment would be at a $485 price. And so you have a lot of great options in the market right now if you can find opportunities to negotiate with sellers. And so in new construction right now, it's not uncommon to see builders offering $5,000 or $10,000 towards closing costs, and you can use that to buy down the interest rate. So that is definitely something that you should look into. And if you are in the housing market right now, look for those opportunities where you can negotiate with the seller and get those seller pay closing costs and really explore what buying down the interest rate looks like. So again, I have fantastic lenders that I can connect you with if you need a great connection, and they will walk you through all those different scenarios. Wanda shares that you're preparing now to move to Georgia at the end of this year or beginning of next year. That is so exciting. And you're coming from Florida. Wanda, we've helped a lot of families move from Florida. And what has been so exciting about that is you would think that not that many people would move from Florida to Georgia, but I don't know if you're moving because of the weather, but so many of the clients that we've helped that have moved from Florida to Georgia, hands down, have not regretted it. And they absolutely love the change in the weather that they have here. So we would love the opportunity to work with you and your family. And you can find my contact information directly below this video. And it's never too early to start planning that move and getting everything worked out. So yeah, that is definitely exciting news. So one of the things that I think is important for you to know and that you might be kind of questioning is, why aren't home prices coming down? You see these headlines of high interest rates, and you would think that home prices would come down to match maybe like a little bit of the lesser buyer demand that the headlines are showing that we're seeing. So I'm going to show another article here. Let's see. And this was a study that was done by Zillow. And this article was going into the affordability crisis. And it says the United States needs, get this, 4.3 million more homes to combat the demand and need that we have for houses. And what we're finding and what the study kind of found is that the gap between the amount of families that we have in the United States and the amount of available homes is widening, and we have way more families than homes. And we're seeing that here in the Metro Atlanta market. We have way more buyers that want to buy houses and way less sellers that are willing to sell their houses. So some highlights of this article says that the nation's housing stock, meaning the available homes that are out there that people could potentially buy, grew by roughly 6.3 million units from 2015 to 2021. But the number of families living in the United States increased by 7.9 million, and there were 7.1 million new households were formed during that period. So you can see that the household formation outpaces the growth in housing stock. And so the number of available units fall, you have competitive pressure, which pushes the housing prices up. And that's exactly why we're currently in the situation that we are right now, where we're not seeing these home prices fall, especially here in the Metro Atlanta area. We're seeing a lot more families nationwide doubling up and living with non-relatives in a home that they do not own themselves or lease. So we have a lot of people that are living together. And it says the worst housing unit deficits were in expensive coastal markets like LA, San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego, and Boston, but also in places in middle America like Boise. So there's a chart here that explains the difference between, or showing you that gap between the households formed, total families formed, and you see here that we have this huge gap between a 2 million home shortage of what we need to satisfy the amount of families that want to be in houses. And you'll see here that in 2021, the number of families that were likely in need of their own homes exceeded available homes by roughly 4.3 million units. That is a ton. And you'll see here, this is why we have not had a housing crash. The amount of missing homes in the market keeps increasing every single year, and we're not building enough houses to make up for that gap. And one of the things, if you've been watching the channel for a while, one of the things I was really talking about over the past 2 years in the Metro Atlanta market, we had a lot of investors, huge investment companies buy up a ton of houses in the Metro Atlanta market. So like 1 out of every 3 homes that were sold over the past couple of years were bought by an investment company. These investment companies were not buying it to turn around and sell it. They were buying it as a rental house. And so a lot of inventory over the past couple of years in the Metro Atlanta area got swallowed up by these investment companies that are now rental homes. And y'all, those houses are not coming back on the market. They are going to stay rental homes for years and years and years and years and years. And what was really concerning to me as a real estate agent is a lot of those houses that they were buying up were houses that my first-time home buyers would want to buy. And we would try to buy those houses, and we couldn't compete because the investment companies were coming in and just writing a check, cash. Yes, I will buy this house. Even if it was a $300,000 house, they would say, I'll pay $325,000. And here you have, Mr. or Miss first-time home buyer who they're doing everything they can to be able to afford that $300,000. They don't have an extra $25,000 to make up that gap. And so all these homes, most of them got sold to these big investment companies. So not only did that supply go out of the market, but one thing that you need to know is that the reason why we have such a wide gap in the market and it's slowly increasing and increasing year over year is because we're not building enough new construction homes. So if you remember during 2007 and 2008, during the housing crash, a lot of builders went out of business. There were a way ton more builders back in 2007 and 2008 than what you see in the market today. A lot of them were smaller mom and pop local builders who were relying on capital that they received from local banks and from smaller banks in order to develop and be able to afford to build these new construction houses and then turn around and sell them to great buyers like you. Well, because of the housing crash, a lot of those smaller banks went under, which means that the lending capability for these smaller builders left the market. Also, a lot of these builders got in over their heads a little bit and they went bankrupt and they got out of the market altogether. They said, to heck with this, we're going to go find another profession. And so a lot of builders never returned to the market. So that's a huge reason of why we have, in part, such a huge gap in the amount of homes is because we have not been building nearly enough houses as what is needed. And one thing that you'll kind of hear locals complain about here is they'll say, gosh, everywhere you go, there's just new construction neighborhood going up after new construction neighborhood. And they're just taking over and they're putting houses anywhere they can. Well, it feels like that. And it's still not nearly enough houses of what we need here in the area to satisfy the amount of buyers that we have. And nationally, it's not enough. So just keep that in mind the next time you see a new construction neighborhood go up. It is, serving a need, and it's helping kind of fill this missing homes that are missing from the market. Let's look at this chart and kind of go down to the Atlanta area. It says there's 63,000 homes that are needed in the metro Atlanta area to satisfy the need. And gosh, New York, 376,000. That's crazy. I guess that's why everyone from New York is moving down here to Georgia, right? And that gives you an idea of some other areas of the housing shortage. But you can kind of see Atlanta is still kind of up there near the top. And that is a huge also reason why we have upward pressure on our prices. And this is also why home prices are not coming down here. So that is something to keep in mind. Here's a huge thing. Smaller, more affordable entry-level homes are needed. This is such a huge pain point for our market everywhere across the country. A lot of building regulations and local county ordinances don't allow for smaller developments or smaller homes that would make homes more affordable. And it's counterproductive. You're like, we need more affordable homes. And counties and cities are like, no, we won't let you do that. And so there's a lot of local change that needs to happen in order to solve this problem as well. So as we're going through this and discussing this, let me know if you have any questions about the housing market, buying a house, or making a move to Georgia. I would love to answer your questions as we are talking about this. Kind of like along this lines, I was helping a client this week, and one of the things that came up is that we got into a multiple offer situation on a house. And we unfortunately lost. But one thing I've learned in this business is that everything happens for a reason. So we found them a fantastic home that they liked even more, that we ended up going under contract on. But this buyer was very upset that we were in a multiple offer situation. And he was like, I don't understand it. If you put a price on the house and you get an offer for that price, why won't you sell it for the price at which you advertised it for? And the conversation then kind of turned into, well, we're not in a buyer's market. We're in a seller's market here. And if a seller gets multiple offers, the seller is going to act in their best interest. And they are going to sell the home for as much money possible as they can. And if someone is willing to pay over what they had it listed for, then that's what they're going to do, because they want to make as much money possible as they can. And this was one of those houses, y'all, that whenever we walked in, we were like, oh, this home is worth way more than what it's currently being advertised for sale at. And sometimes that's a strategy that agents use, where they will underprice a house to drive a ton of traffic to the listing, to get a lot of offers, to drive the price up, to see what the market will handle. So This was a scenario where there were multiple offers, and like I shared with you, we did not win this one. So, um, I'm curious if you are someone that would um, get upset about multiple offer situations, or what are your thoughts and feelings on that? I'd love to know in the comments. So let me know. But, I really had to talk it through with this buyer and help him understand this is the market that we're in here. Now, not every house has these multiple offer situations. It's really kind of like the best ones here in the area have multiple offer situations and scenarios. And the great thing is it's not nearly as bad as what it was during the pandemic, at the height of the housing market during the unicorn years. And so that's a good thing. We're not seeing that every house is receiving 10 and 15 offers and people are paying crazy amounts over asking. But this was definitely a situation where it was a great house. It was priced aggressively. It was in great condition. It had a lot of great features that a lot of people were looking for. And we found ourselves in a multiple offer situation. So you just have to know that in a lot of places right now, it is still very much a seller's market, and you might find yourself in a multiple offer situation. So I'm curious to know if you have any questions about making a move or coming here to Georgia, what it's like to be here, questions about selling your house, any type of questions at all. I am here to answer those questions for you. So just drop them below and I will make sure that we get to them and answer them as we spend a little bit more time together. And if you're just joining us, I'm Sarah Maslowski with Moving to Georgia. I'm here on my channel. We go live just about every single Wednesday, talking about the market and answering your questions. And I drop new videos all about the Metro Atlanta market every single Sunday. And so you'll have to make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel to make sure that you get notified every single time we have a new video that comes out. So Sumant says, planning to buy a home in North Atlanta, preferably Alpharetta and Cumming. What are the communities that are to be looked into? That is a great question, and it really depends on your price point. So both Alpharetta and Cumming are pretty popular, and especially Alpharetta, you're going to spend significantly more to be in Alpharetta than what you are in Cumming. Now, I work with a lot of clients that say, hey, we want to be in these areas and we only want new construction. So if that is you, definitely reach out to me, because the new construction process, especially in Alpharetta and Cumming, is very challenging and difficult to get into. It can be done, and there's a lot of new construction happening there, and there's a lot of demand. So sometimes it takes some planning to get into a new construction community if you want to be there. But there's many, many fabulous communities there. Toll Brothers is a fantastic builder that is building in Alpharetta and Cumming. I have a lot of great experience with Toll Brothers, so definitely reach out to me, and I'd love to put you in connection and making sure that you're getting the very best deal, and the communities that you need to look into. So definitely reach out. My contact information is below this video, and I'll give you some really personalized recommendations based upon your price point and your time frame of moving. Oh, Ryan, how has the fishing been on Lake Lanier? Terrible. Nothing's changed. My husband still cannot catch a fish. They jump all around us. And I don't know if I shared with you, but I had a client that moved from California, and he's like super good at fishing. And they were renting a house here on Lake Lanier as they were home searching. And he was like sending me pictures of these great big bass that he was catching off of the dock from the house that they were renting. And I was like, man, I'm not showing that to my husband that has been trying for like 7 years now to catch fish and can't. But who am I to judge, right? He has fun doing it, and I just sit there and read my book when we go out on the boat. So he needs help, though. Thank goodness he never watches this, and he'll never hear this. So none of y'all tell him. If you ever meet my husband, don't tell him that I've been talking about his fishing or lack of fishing on my videos. Carolyn, you found a condo in Avondale Estates, very well priced. Should I pay cash? I have $1 million condo in California. I can take out a HELOC as it is nearly paid off. Carolyn, that is a great question. Obviously, if you don't have an agent yet, I would love to help you. I love that area. So one of the things that you would want to take into account is the money that you are going to put into that condo, could you take that and put it in other investments and make more money elsewhere? And for a lot of my clients, they think that yes, they can, that money is better suited in other investments rather than being tied up into a house. And that is a very personal choice to make, and something that a financial advisor would help you kind of explore. But I definitely think there's a cost benefit analysis there to think about maybe tying up your home. And I think it also kind of depends a lot on where you're at in life, your age, all of those types of things, and what's important to you in terms of giving you that financial security that you want and that you may need. And other things may be more important than taking that money and investing it someplace else. So great question. And I'd love to connect you with someone fantastic that could help you kind of explore what a loan might look like and why you may or may not want to do that. So my contact information is directly below this video. So let's definitely make sure that we connect, Carolyn. Yes, Sumanth, you're looking for something in the mid 700s. There are a couple of really great new construction neighborhoods that are coming up there. Resale wise in Alpharetta, you can get in there for the 700s, and yet you're going to find that you can afford or find much better house for your money and coming. And so a lot of people that really want to be in Alpharetta end up buying and coming just because of you get more house trade-off there, and you're still really, really close, and you can take advantage of all the great things that Alpharetta has to offer. And Cumming is good. I mean, it's growing and it's getting even better and better. So they just recently opened up Cumming City Center, which is a great outdoor shopping venue and amphitheater. And they've also recently announced plans that they have to build kind of like an outdoor shopping center, restaurant, and they're building an arena to attract concerts and maybe a future NHL team in South Cumming. And so that's definitely something that is going to push home prices up and really drive even more growth and development in the area. So now would be a great time to get in before that happens. Kanisha, do you prefer one builder over another for purchasing a home, D.R. Horton or Lennar? That is a good question. So one thing that you have to know is you really want to put boots on the ground, and you want to go look at these developments yourself and really walk through and study how they build houses. Now, both D.R. Horton and Lennar are big builders. They're going to build a lot of houses all at once, and they build these homes relatively fast. So within 3 to 4 months is usually their time frame of how long it takes them to complete a house. There are some D.R. Horton communities that I've been in that have been great. And there's some D.R. Horton communities that I've been in that have been less than great. I actually had a buyer not move forward with a house recently that was built by D.R. Horton because they were shocked at the little touch-up things that just they didn't get right. You know, they didn't do that great of a paint job. Some of the trim in the house was a little wonky. And this was very similar, though, to all of the other houses that we saw. So thankfully, we were able to work our way out of that contract without penalty. And this was a very good representation of the other homes that we had walked through and saw. So one of the things that we would do working together is that we would really walk through these houses together, homes that are finished, they're model houses, homes that are in the process of being built, so that you can really get a feel for how the builder in that neighborhood, the project manager, how they are completing these houses. And you really want to make sure that you're looking for the negative things, because likely those things that you don't like may also show up in your home as well. And you want to make sure that you're comfortable with that. When I say comfortable with that, I mean, obviously there's things that they can fix and solve, and that is the types of houses that they're building. So for a lot of buyers, though, sometimes that is the very best option that gives them the availability, gives them the location, gives them a lot of wants, and gives them the price point that they want to be in. And so sometimes these houses are, you know, your good houses that you're going to be in for 4 to 6 years, and then you're going to sell that and move up into a different neighborhood or a different price point. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Lennar generally is pretty good, and I would just really, I can't give a blanket answer on that, and it's something that we would really have to study together. Yeah, so not as good reviews for D.R. Horton homes, and I wouldn't write them off completely. So for a lot of your bigger companies, you can go online and find tons of bad reviews, right? And obviously they're coming from someplace, but I wouldn't write them off altogether, and I would look at it a lot more closely. All right. So y'all have some great questions and comments about the Georgia real estate market. And so one of the things I have been talking about, or I've mentioned several times here, is the unicorn years. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit more. We shared this on, I shared this recently today on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, you can look me up, Sarah Mislowski, and follow me there. And I shared these graphics of the unicorn years and why you can't compare today to the unicorn years of the past couple of years. And so, a unicorn is something that is greatly desired, but it's difficult or impossible to find. I often, sometimes, whenever I'm talking with you buyers or clients, when we're helping, if you're looking for a ranch on a basement with a second driveway, that's a unicorn in this area. Every now and then you can find it, but it's really hard and difficult to find. So, comparing housing market metrics from one year can be challenging in a normal housing market, and these last couple of years have been anything but normal. So oftentimes when you see the headlines of home prices are falling, or home sales are at drastic all-time lows, well, it's because there's not a whole lot of sellers selling their houses right now. There's a lot of sellers that are hanging on to what they have. We also show that over the last couple of years, buyer activity is still really strong. It's even stronger than what it is pre-unicorn years. We have more people looking for houses in 2021, 2022, and 2023 than they were in previous years. So buyer demand is still very strong. We're just not getting the houses that we need to get the sales that we need. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You also will see headlines of home prices are crashing. Well, they're not crashing. They're just not appreciating as fast as what they did in the unicorn years. Unicorn years, 2020, 2021, everyone wanted to buy a house. Everyone was moving during the pandemic, and interest rates were crazy low. So you could get a really good house for a really great interest rate. And so that created a lot of affordability for people, but then competition was just crazy, right? So home prices increased because of all of that competition. Well, we don't have as much competition this year, and we're returning back to that normal appreciation. So when they say that home sales prices, the growth has slowed down, well, of course it slowed down. We were in those unicorn years of 11 and 18% appreciation, which is just totally unheard of in the real estate market. Another thing that you'll hear is that that foreclosures are rising, and you'll see the headlines that say that. But then if you look at to pre-unicorn years, we have way fewer foreclosures. So the housing market is not crashing. So the important thing to note here about this, kind of like the key point, is that you really have to make sure that whenever you're looking at real estate data and headlines, to make sure that they're really kind of comparing apples to apples. And if they're comparing things to how they were during 2021, 2020, it's not a fair comparison. And you really want to make sure that you have someone that you trust that's interpreting this data for you and kind of giving you some more information on how things are. And on that point, I came across this. Let's see. No, that's not what I need. Hang on. I'm going to share with you this article. So this is a Redfin article, and it said there were fewer homes for sale in May than any other month on record. Well, the reason that there's fewer homes for sale than any other month on record is that it's people that are selling their house, they're faced with a 7% interest rate that they would have to give up their 2.3% interest rate that they have and go out and pay more than double interest to get another house and pay more money as well. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So of course you don't have as many sellers selling. And what you're also going to see give it another couple of weeks, you're going to see headlines that say record low home sales in June. Is the market crashing? Well, there was record low home sales in June because there was no houses to buy in May. So you really want to make sure that you're taking all of that in totality whenever you are interpreting kind of like the real estate market and the data. So that is something that is important to know. Ryan says you've been looking at Creekstone by Hardiman and Dawsonville. Anything new and interesting going on in Dawsonville? Oh gosh, I don't know of any more new construction developments happening in Dawsonville, and yet it feels like there's a new restaurant or a new store opening up all the time over there in Dawsonville. So it's definitely still a very much booming, growing area. And just like Alpharetta has gotten quite expensive, and that's pushing people into Cumming. As Cumming is getting more expensive, that is pushing home price growth and people into Dawsonville. And all of that is just up Georgia 400, which makes for a really easy commute. And so it makes it for an easy choice for people just to kind of keep going a little bit north. So personally, I think that Dawsonville is still a fantastic area to invest in and get into, and it's only going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So if you're counting on Dawsonville kind of staying like a quiet community, I would not count on that. It's definitely going to continue to grow. All right. Thank you everyone for your fantastic questions and comments tonight during the live stream. I so enjoyed getting to spend this time with you. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that. And like I said, go live here almost every single Wednesday, unless I'm out of town traveling for some reason. So make sure that you join us next week on the live stream, and make sure that you check out videos that come out every single Sunday. Hope to see you next week on the live stream. Thank you for joining us. And of course, if you're thinking about making a move, my contact information is right below this video. Call me, text me, send me an email. We will connect and get the process going for you and help you and your family move to Georgia. Talk to y'all later.